concept of letting go of the past is not merely a superficial remedy, but a profound shift that permeates one's entire being. It's not a simple, instantaneous act, but a comprehensive transformation rooted in the deepest recesses of consciousness. The great thinker Carl Jung dedicated his life to meticulously exploring the hidden corners of the human psyche, and his research led to a striking discovery. Truly letting go is not merely moving forward in life, it's an authentic internal revolution capable of transforming the mind from within. Consider this: throughout their existence, every individual inevitably accumulates countless relationships, ingrained habits, once-held beliefs, and emotional imprints, many of which may have long ceased to be beneficial or have even become obstacles. Yet, humanity often clings to them with astonishing tenacity, driven by a primal fear of the unknown, a blind adherence to routine, or the deceptive illusion of complete control over events. Jung was convinced that this internal resistance not only shackles the individual, but also steadily distances them from their true essence. It's akin to someone carrying a heavy backpack, filled to the brim with sharp stones, making every subsequent step on a path that demands extraordinary lightness and freedom excruciatingly difficult. But what happens when this burden is finally shed? In this complex process of liberation, the unconscious plays a truly decisive role. It represents a deep, almost bottomless reservoir within each of us, carefully preserving processed emotions, past experiences, and meticulously hidden, sometimes unconscious wounds. Jung asserted that when an individual persistently ignores the faint inner voice warning that something in their life is amiss, they inevitably create immense internal tension, capable of draining them completely. Letting go, however, is by no means a sign of weakness or defeat, as some might believe. On the contrary, it's a profound act of releasing all accumulated suppressed energy. It is this liberation that finally allows a person's authentic self, their true, unique individuality, to emerge in all its beauty and strength. And when this happens, entirely new horizons open up, ones previously only dreamt of. There are moments in life when one feels that something is irrevocably draining their energy, yet they continue to cling to the familiar. This could be, for instance, a personal relationship that initially seemed ideal but ultimately left a feeling of emptiness, or a professional pursuit that offered an illusion of stability but simultaneously deprived one of any joy in existence. What happens when the decision is finally made to step away from such circumstances? Undoubtedly, an immediate sense of relief washes over, as if a heavy burden has been lifted, but this is only the beginning of the journey. True letting go, however, is not merely leaving something behind. According to Carl Gustav Jung's profound conviction, this process initiates a complex internal restructuring. Such a shift cannot happen instantaneously, as the human unconscious operates with symbols, deep emotions, and dreams, requiring significant time for their integration. This phenomenon can be compared to a river that resumes its flow after its course has been blocked. Once the obstructions are removed, life begins to move in a more natural and harmonious direction. But here arises a key question that troubles many. Why is it so difficult to part with the familiar? Jung's theory points to the concept of the shadow, a hidden, often unconscious part of the human personality that people tend to avoid, suppress, or simply deny. This shadow can harbor deep-seated fears, guilt, self-doubt, or even excessive pride. Resistance to letting go arises not because of the object or situation itself, but because of the internal conflict it forces one to confront. For example, remaining in an unhealthy relationship may not be due to attachment to the other person, but rather to a fear of loneliness or an ingrained belief that one isn't worthy of something better. These fears are not external, they stem from uncharted, sometimes ignored corners of one's own psyche. Letting go in this sense is not merely an act of courage, it is first and foremost an invitation to look within, to confront what has been hidden, and thereby reclaim one's true inner strength. Carl Jung, the eminent thinker and founder of analytical psychology, asserted that the shadow, the hidden, unconscious side of the personality, does not vanish when ignored. On the contrary, its influence only strengthens, manifesting in persistent behavioral patterns, interpersonal relationships, and life decisions. True emancipation requires conscious awareness of this hidden aspect of human nature, its unconditional acceptance, and its harmonious integration into the totality of the self. This is not an easy, sometimes thorny path, but it is precisely the one that leads to true self-development and profound personal transformation. Once an individual dares to confront the suppressed facets of their personality and releases what no longer resonates with their authentic essence, a radical transformation occurs in all areas of existence. Energetic flows are redirected, and one's perception of the world undergoes profound changes. It seems as if the very fabric of existence begins to harmoniously align with one's inner truth, opening previously impenetrable gates. This phenomenon is not a manifestation of mystical forces. It is a natural consequence of achieving wholeness and resonance with one's deep self. Herein lies a fundamental principle. The process of letting go should not be perceived as an act of renunciation, but rather as a manifestation of profound trust. Trust that by freeing oneself from what no longer serves one's true purpose, one clears space for something new and more significant to emerge. Such a step is an expression of deep self-respect, an acknowledgement that there is no need to carry others' burdens or outdated obligations. By choosing to let go, one not only releases physical or emotional space, but also sends a powerful internal signal. I am open to change and ready to embrace something entirely different. This act is akin to an open window in a long-closed room, through which a stream of fresh air rushes in, filling it with new energy and life. This seemingly simple gesture has a truly profound impact, transforming a person on all levels of their being, from the most superficial to the deepest layers of consciousness. Carl Jung, the eminent thinker, asserted that the world a person perceives is nothing less than a mirror reflection of their own internal reality. Everything an individual experiences and comprehends is, to a significant extent, a projection of what is hidden within their soul. Consequently, when one decides to let something go, they are essentially restructuring this internal projection. A new way of perceiving the world becomes available, as if through a renewed prism, allowing them to shed the distortions imposed by long-ingrained fears and deep insecurity. Has one ever considered why certain people, situations, or relationships seem to endlessly drain their vital energy? Jung explained this phenomenon by stating that such connections are not in harmony with an individual's true self. By persistently clinging to them, one ignores the subtle but persistent signals from their unconscious, which urge them to pay close attention to internal needs. However, when the decision is finally made to part with these burdensome connections, something transformative occurs. It's akin to a door slamming shut that previously trapped energy, which can now flow freely and unhindered towards what truly holds deep meaning. Nevertheless, this process of liberation does not always proceed easily and without hindrance. Letting go can leave one with a feeling of profound emptiness, an emptiness capable of causing anxiety and discomfort. This fear of the unknown void is entirely natural. Humanity has been accustomed for centuries to fill its inner space with external distractions, be it other people, material possessions, familiar routines, or endless activities. However, Jung taught that such emptiness is not something to be feared. On the contrary, it is a sacred, almost hallowed space that opens up for the emergence of something entirely new and authentic. It's like a blank canvas, waiting for richer, more vibrant, and expressive pictures of existence to be painted upon it. When one has to part with something truly significant, be it a relationship that has lost its original value, or a cherished dream that once served as a guiding star, but over time lost its relevance and ceased to resonate with one's inner world, there often arises a sense of losing something absolutely irreplaceable, as if a part of oneself vanishes forever. However, with time comes the realization that what was gained in return proved far more valuable: clarity of mind, inner peace, and a renewed, deeper sense of life's purpose. Carl Gustav Jung believed that such a process of internal transformation is never a mere coincidence. It is always the result of meticulous, deeply conscious inner work on oneself. The decision to let go of what has run its course represents a kind of immersion into a dialogue with one's own unconscious, a courageous confrontation with the shadow aspects of the personality, and an allowance for them to emerge. Despite all its complexity and internal resistance, this path is profoundly liberating and cathartic. As an individual performs the act of letting go, subtle yet highly significant changes begin to manifest in their surrounding environment. Previous connections, once perceived as vital, gradually lose their power and significance, thereby clearing the way for the formation of new, more genuine and authentic relationships that fully align with the individual's evolving self. Such coincidences are not mere chance. They represent a manifestation of the law of synchronicity, one of Jung's most fascinating and profound concepts. Synchronicity, according to Jung, occurs when external events meaningfully mirror an individual's internal psychological state, creating the impression that the universe itself is responding to one's conscious decision to live in harmony with their inner truth. One of the most striking and illustrative examples is the remarkable phenomenon of new opportunities emerging as soon as an individual frees themselves from the shackles of what previously constrained them. Often, at such a moment, one finds a kindred spirit who shares their deep values or discovers a professional pursuit that brings true fulfillment. Sometimes it can also be the rekindling of a long-forgotten passion that once brought joy. Such events are not coincidences. They serve as undeniable evidence that one has achieved a state of inner harmony and resonance with their true self. However, reaching this crucial point of inner freedom demands genuine courage and determination. It implies deep self-reflection, a willingness to ask oneself difficult, sometimes painful questions. What exactly is holding me back, and what of it no longer serves my growth? Why does the process of letting go feel so complex and agonizing? Which part of me resists this liberation? Such introspective reflections not only contribute to a deeper understanding of oneself, but also, equally importantly, pave the way for a true, comprehensive transformation of their being. Ultimately, the process of letting go is not merely an abandonment of the old or unnecessary. It represents a far deeper action, a conscious liberation of inner space for everything that truly resonates with the innermost strings of one's soul. It is not only a powerful act of self-respect, but also a vivid testament to an individual's unwavering faith in the natural, organic rhythm of existence, as well as a clear declaration of their readiness for continuous growth and evolution. Life, lived from this state of authentic truth, transforms absolutely every aspect of one's being. When one accepts this challenge, the universe invariably responds in ways that often defy rational comprehension, revealing previously unseen opportunities and paving entirely unexpected paths. In the act of such voluntary surrender to the flow of life lies a truly profound, transformative power. It is nothing less than a conscious acknowledgement that not everything in this world is subject to total control. For the very essence of life possesses an innate wisdom and capacity for self-organization and restructuring, especially when people stop desperately clinging to what has long lost its relevance and ceased to serve their highest good. As the eminent thinker Carl Jung posited, human experience is not limited to merely taking decisive steps to transform current reality. It also encompasses the vital release of latent energies, which, like invisible threads, facilitate the individual's reunification with the deep core of their psyche, with their true authenticity. The unconscious, that boundless and often mysterious realm to whose exploration Jung dedicated his entire life, manifests itself and transmits its messages through a complex system of symbols, the power of emotions, and the enigmatic world of dreams. When one consciously decides to let go of something that has long burdened them, they send an unambiguous and direct signal to their unconscious. It is a demonstration of readiness for further growth and development. However, it must be acknowledged that transformation rarely occurs without noticeable resistance. Often, it is the ego, that part of the personality most striving for stability and control, that actively resists the very idea of liberation. It is precisely at such moments that deep and honest self-exploration becomes absolutely necessary. Jung tirelessly urged every individual to bravely confront their shadow, that hidden aspect of their self that many prefer to ignore and keep in oblivion. When one begins the process of releasing various attachments, they inevitably come face to face with this very shadow. Thus, for instance, one might surprisingly realize that a deep attachment to an unsatisfactory relationship actually stems from an irrational fear of loneliness, or that a persistent unwillingness to radically change one's professional path arises from a deeply ingrained need for external validation. Such realizations rarely bring comfort. On the contrary, they often cause discomfort, but their emergence is absolutely essential for genuine growth. By acknowledging these aspects of their shadow, the individual begins the process of their sequential integration, and it is in this integration process that their true and unwavering strength lies. An astonishing transformation occurs when an individual finally decides to let go of what no longer serves their growth. Anxieties that once seemed insurmountable obstacles gradually dissipate. This phenomenon is explained by the fact that releasing attachments that have lost their relevance simultaneously liberates a significant amount of emotional energy previously blocked within those bonds. This energy, previously stagnant, now transforms into a powerful driving force that nourishes intuitive perception, stimulates creative abilities, and strengthens the resolve to make decisions fully aligned with one's true essence. Carl Jung asserted that such a release of energetic potential is fundamental for establishing a deep connection with the self, the most profound and holistic version of the human I. As the personality sheds the layers of social conditioning and societal expectations, it steadily approaches a state of inner harmony and completeness. However, a natural question arises: how does one recognize if they are moving along the right path? According to Jung, the key to the answer lies in the phenomenon of synchronicity, a phenomenon where external events reveal a meaningful coincidence with an individual's inner world. This is not a mere coincidence. These are clear indications that one is in resonance with the great flow of life. Perhaps one thought of an old acquaintance and moments later received a message from them. Or, for example, after a definitive break from a toxic environment, new, inspiring, and supportive connections unexpectedly entered one's life. Such experiences are not random. They serve as a direct reflection of inner alignment and harmony. However, this path is not without its trials. The process of letting go often leads to periods of deep uncertainty, when an individual begins to doubt the correctness of their choices. Such a state is entirely natural. Any significant change is invariably accompanied by a transitional phase, a space where the old is already lost and the new is not yet fully formed. However, this space is not empty at all. It represents fertile ground capable of nourishing personal growth. Carl Jung described this process as alchemical. Just as ancient alchemists sought to transform ordinary lead into precious gold, so too does a person, by letting go of what no longer serves their development, transform their internal wounds and limitations into valuable wisdom and authentic personal power. This transformation requires significant time, for profound changes are never instantaneous. Nevertheless, with each step forward, the individual steadily approaches a life filled with authenticity and deep self-realization. As one begins to feel the beneficial effects of letting go, they gradually realize that this process not only restructures their internal relationship with themselves, but also radically transforms their connections with others. People who once drained vital energy gradually disappear from one's social circle, making way for new relationships that perfectly align with the individual's true essence. Life does not become idealized in this process, but it gains authenticity, and it is in this genuine reality that one discovers a peace that cannot be acquired, imposed externally, or falsified. It can only be lived. The individual realizes that total control is not a prerequisite for feeling secure. Instead, they learn to trust the very flow of life, understanding that chaos is not inherently negative, but rather acts as a powerful catalyst for transformation. Jung believed that chaos precedes order, and thus, instead of stubbornly resisting inevitable changes, one begins to embrace them, no matter how unsettling they may seem at first glance. Every such shift guides them towards something greater and more meaningful. When one adopts such a mindset, they naturally begin to attract abundance, inner peace, and new opportunities into their life, not because they actively pursue them, but because their own energetic vibration has undergone a qualitative change. The individual no longer dwells in closed cycles of fear and painful attachment. Instead, they move through life with increased confidence, openness, and genuine authenticity, and it is this renewed energy that possesses a powerful, attractive force for the universe. As an individual aligns with their authentic nature, a profound metamorphosis occurs. Their worldview radically changes. What once seemed chaotic, unclear, or painful now begins to reveal its hidden significance. Carl Jung termed this the awakening to psychic wholeness. Releasing everything that has lost inner resonance not only opens up space for the unknown, but also facilitates the manifestation of deeper facets of the human being with striking clarity. This is a period of profound transformations, bordering on a mystical experience. Suddenly, favorable circumstances arise at the most opportune moment. Necessary individuals are encountered on life's path, and solutions, previously sought in vain in the external world, begin to emerge from the depths of one's inner space. This is not a simple coincidence. It is a natural consequence of harmonizing with one's own truth. Jung described this state as an ideal equilibrium between the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche, where they function in complete synergy without any hindrance. However, this path is not without its difficulties. Along this path, one may encounter internal fluctuations and feel a strong desire to return to a familiar, comfortable state. The ego, that part of the personality which fears losing control, can whisper that letting go of the old too hastily is fraught with dangers, and perhaps one should hold on to familiar frameworks a little longer. It is at this very moment that true inner power is discovered. Jung believed that true courage lies not in the absence of fear, but in the willingness to face it and continue moving forward despite its presence. Imagine for a moment how one's life would be transformed if they could completely free themselves from all the bonds that shackle them. One should reflect on the vast space that could be created not only in the external world, but also in the most hidden corners of their mind and heart. This newly found space would undoubtedly be filled with crystal clarity, inexhaustible inspiration, and truly limitless potential. It might seem that by allowing oneself to surrender to the flow of existence, one would reconnect with an inexhaustible source of creative energy and inner power residing in the depths of their being. The process of letting go also has a fundamental impact on the realm of relationships. It is a common belief that one's connections with others serve as a reflection of their inner world. If one persistently clings to relationships that have ceased to be beneficial or have become destructive, this can be a clear reflection of unhealed emotional wounds, perhaps a deficit of self-worth, or a subconscious fear of isolation. However, when one makes a conscious choice to free themselves from these bonds, they not only shed the burden of emotional obligations, they transmit a powerful signal to the universe about their readiness to form deeper and genuinely meaningful relationships. Relationships that enter one's life after they have performed the act of letting go typically possess an entirely different energy. They are characterized by lightness, greater fulfillment, and are built on principles of mutual respect and support rather than painful attachment or codependency. These new connections do not urge one to transform to meet external expectations. Instead, they encourage them to open up and express themselves in their true, unique essence. When one allows themselves to let go of the past or what no longer serves their growth, a remarkable phenomenon occurs. They begin to reconnect with their long-forgotten dreams. These cherished aspirations, which were once set aside as unrealistic or abandoned under the pressure of life's circumstances, unexpectedly resurface into consciousness. Freed from the burden of what no longer serves them, the individual regains the inner courage and vital energy needed to clearly envision their true desires and, most importantly, to take concrete steps toward their realization. It is important to note that personal transformation is not a final destination, but rather an endless and continuously evolving process. With each act of letting go of what no longer aligns with one's inner world, they take another significant step toward achieving their wholeness. However, this does not imply that this path will be straight and linear. It will inevitably bring moments of uncertainty, encounters with setbacks, and even periods of deep pain. Nevertheless, each of these challenging moments carries a specific purpose. It is meant to teach the individual something new about their own essence and to help them integrate aspects of their personality that may have long remained hidden or suppressed. Throughout this journey, self-compassion becomes fundamental. Showing kindness to oneself means not only accepting that one doesn't have all the answers, but also recognizing that mistakes are an integral part of personal growth. It also includes acknowledging that experiencing fear or sadness is absolutely normal and natural. Such emotions are by no means signs of failure. On the contrary, they are compelling proof that one is fully living and deeply experiencing all facets of the human journey. By allowing oneself to feel these emotions, one thereby grants the necessary permission for inner healing. The outcome of this deep inner work is an existence perceived as more authentic, more aligned with one's true essence. The individual stops seeking validation for their worth in the external world as they achieve inner self-acceptance. They no longer feel a compulsive need to control every detail as they begin to trust the natural flow of life. And one releases what is not meant for them, understanding that what truly belongs will always find its way back. Renowned psychologist Carl Jung asserted that true freedom is not an external phenomenon to be found outside, but rather an internal state cultivated within the individual. It arises when one frees themselves from the invisible chains of fear, guilt, and excessive attachment, choosing a life filled with sincerity and trust. When an individual chooses this path of self-discovery and transformation, they don't merely change their personal life, their impact extends to the surrounding world. Each sincere act of self-honesty triggers a chain reaction, motivating others to follow suit and generating a wave of transformation that extends far beyond the individual. A life built in full alignment with one's own truth brings about fundamental transformations not only within the person's inner world, but also in their interactions with external reality. The renowned thinker Carl Jung stated that individuals capable of embracing their inner shadows and holistically integrating the authentic essence of their self develop an extraordinarily powerful presence, a kind of energy that requires no words for its understanding. This unique state is achieved when a person, by releasing internal barriers, ceases fighting with themselves and stops resisting the natural flow of life. They begin to move effortlessly, becoming a person who confidently walks their path, naturally inspiring others and acting from a deep understanding of their own truth. It's worth considering the following aspect. Every time a person clings to something that has lost its relevance and no longer serves their development, be it an outdated relationship, a restrictive mindset, or a deeply hidden, ingrained fear, they expend colossal amounts of vital energy. Instead of directing this valuable resource towards creation, joy, or exploring new possibilities, the energy remains constrained, feeding what is obsolete and unnecessary. The moment an individual decides to release these shackles, they reclaim their energetic potential, thereby allowing themselves to begin creating an existence truly aligned with their innermost values and aspirations. Carl Jung characterized this unique state as a return to one's original wholeness. He deeply believed that within the depths of every human being lies an infinite source of wisdom, a sacred connection to something immeasurably greater than individual existence. However, this fundamental connection often becomes buried under numerous layers of conditioning accumulated throughout life. The process of letting go, or liberation, gradually dissolves these layers, revealing one's true self. In this newfound state of clarity, the individual stops living according to external expectations and begins to act from the very core of their authentic being. This, of course, does not mean that letting go will make life absolutely easy or that all difficulties will instantly disappear. Obstacles will still arise, but one's attitude towards them will fundamentally change. Problems will no longer be perceived as adversaries. Instead, they will transform into valuable opportunities for personal growth and deep self-discovery. Jung suggested that traits or actions that irritate us in others can actually serve as a mirror, offering a deeper understanding of ourselves. This fundamental shift in perspective is one of the most significant gifts that come with the practice of letting go. One of the most beautiful transformations that occurs through letting go is the awakening of intuition. This subtle inner voice, often suppressed by the overwhelming noise of the external world, begins to gain incredible strength. It's like clearing the inner space of the soul, allowing one to hear with much greater clarity what their own soul has been trying to communicate all along. This enhanced intuition becomes a reliable compass, leading to relationships, choices, and experiences that truly align with one's authentic purpose. With this deepened inner connection comes an encompassing sense of gratitude, not only for joyful and bright moments, but also for the difficulties that have shaped and tempered the individual. Jung believed that enlightenment is achieved not by imagining streams of light, but by bringing awareness to the darkest corners of the inner world. This profound idea inspires us to view our shadows, mistakes, and losses not as insurmountable burdens, but as integral and essential pieces of the complex puzzle that ultimately creates our lives. Imagine, for instance, a person who dedicated many years to a relationship that constantly undermined their self-esteem and fostered deep doubts about their own worth. During that period, it might have felt like a heavy burden, something relentlessly draining their vital energy and distorting their self-perception. However, now, retrospectively evaluating the past, one can realize the formative influence of that experience. It taught the individual invaluable lessons about the importance of establishing personal boundaries, the necessity of deep respect for one's own value, and the priority of personal well-being. Liberation from these ties was not merely creating free space in life, it became a powerful stimulus for personal development, an inevitable stage that paved the way for new, more significant achievements. According to Carl Gustav Jung, a prominent thinker, this process is also closely linked to the concept of archetypes. The moment one decides to free themselves from the past, an inner essence is activated and deeply explored, one that demonstrates a readiness to boldly and genuinely embark on uncharted territories. This deep archetype of the explorer feels no fear of impending changes. On the contrary, it embraces transformation with open arms, seeing in it a unique opportunity to discover unknown facets of one's own self and the surrounding existence. When such a mindset takes root in consciousness, former fear gives way to anticipation and excitement, and previously daunting uncertainty transforms into a boundless horizon of potential achievements. It is important to realize that the process of letting go is not a one-time event. Rather, it is a continuous practice, requiring a daily commitment to deeply examine what one is holding on to and to question whether it continues to serve their highest good. Sometimes liberation means exiting an outdated relationship. At other times, it implies abandoning a limiting belief, breaking a harmful habit, or simply shifting a perspective that no longer aligns with who the person is becoming. Every small act of release, no matter how insignificant it may seem, steadily brings the individual closer to their authentic self. The most powerful aspect of this transformative process is that by living authentically, one naturally becomes a guiding light for others. As Jung once aptly remarked, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And when this inner awakening occurs, the individual inadvertently inspires others to follow the same path. This leads us to ponder important questions. What exactly could one create if they freed themselves from everything that no longer served their development? What new relationships, inspiring projects, or cherished dreams could come to fruition if they stopped carrying the burden of the past? These questions are not merely food for thought. They serve as a powerful reminder of the boundless potential that lies dormant within each individual. According to Jung's teachings, genuine personal transformation is rooted not in external circumstances but deep within the human psyche. When an individual frees themselves from the past, they don't just cast off old shackles, they open doors to a future full of unknown possibilities. One chooses to live based on trust, a deep connection with oneself and the surrounding world, and the authenticity of their being, and although this choice may seem simple, it holds colossal power, capable of changing everything. Ultimately, the process of letting go is not just about gaining freedom, it is an act of true courage. It is a deep realization that there is no need to cling to anything that no longer serves personal growth and development. True transformation begins from within, with the readiness to face one's shadows, integrate the full spectrum of one's emotions, and trust the natural flow of life. By letting go, one doesn't just break the chains binding them to the past, they free up space for the emergence of what is new, meaningful, and harmonious in their life. While this path is not always easy, it brings deep satisfaction and reward. It is a path to achieving wholeness, where every choice made, every connection forged, and every experience lived resonates with the deepest truth of one's being. By acting in this way, one not only transforms their own life, they inspire others to follow their example. For when an individual radiates their inner light, they encourage those around them to also step into their own light. At this moment, everyone is invited to deep reflection. What outdated beliefs, habits, or circumstances do you continue to cling to, even though they have long ceased to harmonize with your true essence? What could you gain? What new horizons would open up before you if you had the courage and determination to free yourself from this burden today? Now is your decisive moment, full of unprecedented opportunities, for within the depths of the human being lie all the necessary resources to create an existence that fully reflects your authentic self, your highest purpose, and your unbreakable connection with the boundless cosmos. That is why, at this pivotal life crossroads, everyone should remember you possess the unbreakable power to shape a life that flawlessly aligns with your inner truth, your true purpose, and your highest potential, revealing all facets of your uniqueness. Any movement, even the smallest, aimed at freeing oneself from the old and obsolete, is a confident step towards the life that was predestined for you from above, towards your true path. Therefore, everyone should trust their own intuition, embrace this amazing and transformative journey with an open heart, and always remember, the universe, with all its wisdom, invariably guides you toward greater achievements and boundless possibilities, opening the path to true well-being.